So we've been talking a lot about taxes. Chapter 12 was all about how do you withhold taxes from employees' paychecks and all of that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do here now in 13.3 is report the taxes to the government. And so to start out with, you have a W-2. So whenever you have a job and they withhold any kind of federal income tax or anything like that out of your check, they're going to give you at the end of the year a W-2 form, which is an employer annual report to employees of taxes withheld. They call that a W-2 form. It looks something like this and tells how much money you made, how much was withheld in federal income tax and Social Security, and it'll have your Social Security number and all that kind of information on it. So employers have to give their employees this W-2 form by January 31st of the next year. If it is requested ahead of time, then they have to give it to you within 30 days if you leave a job in the middle of the year. Some will hold it and still send it to you in January if that's what you want. Sometimes that's easier because then you don't misplace it or lose it or something like that, but that would be up to you if you leave the job in the middle of the year. Some federal tax forms can be printed and copied off the internet, and other ones like the W-2 and the W-3 that we're going to talk about have to be provided by the IRS. And so with the W-2, you get 4 copies. And so the employer sends 1 copy into the Social Security Administration, the government. They keep a copy for their records, and then they tend to give the employee 2 copies. Sometimes they'll give you 3. It just depends on what computer system they're using. But you have one for your records that you can keep, and then if they send you 3. If they just send you 2, you send 1 in with your federal income tax return and 1 in with your state income tax return. So each employer, when they withhold taxes out of your paycheck or out of an employee's paycheck, they then have to send that into the government. That's why it goes into those payable accounts that we talked about when we were recording them, because we have to hold on to them. They're liabilities until we pay them into the government. So when they pay those into the government, they fill out a Form 941, which is an employer's quarterly federal tax return, and it has to be filled out by the last day of the month following the end of a calendar quarter. So as you can see here, quarter 1 is January to March. So that one would have to be turned in by April 30th because that's the last calendar day of the month following the end of the quarter. So quarter 2 is April to June. So that one would have to go in July. Quarter 3 is July to September. So that one would have to go in October. And quarter 4 is October to December. And that one has to go in on January 30th of the following year. So this is what this form looks like, and it's pretty complicated to fill out. We're going to walk through how to do one, but in the real world, you're going to have a computer system that after all this stuff is done through your payroll and everything, it's going to pop one of these out for you. So that's why I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it as we go through and do it, but you're going to have your heading. You're going to have the number of employees you have, the total quarterly earnings. That would be the total earnings of any pay periods in that quarter. Then you would have whatever tax was withheld. And then you have the employee and employer Social Security tax and Medicare tax. Because remember, we talked about how that is a matching tax. So whatever has been withheld from the employee, the employer also pays. And then the total employee Social Security Medicare tax comes down over there. And then your total taxes. And then you're going to go over to the back side of it, and you have the state abbreviation. And then you have the month scheduled deposit. And then each month's deposit that you're going to put in there, and then the total deposits. And that's how you fill that out. I'll go through the work together with you here in a few minutes, but a couple of other employer annual taxes that have to be reported. So the Form W-3 is a transmittal of wage and tax statements, and it's sent into the Social Security Administration, again, the government. by February 28th of each year. And it reports the prior year's earnings and payroll taxes withheld for all employees. And so it's just a form that every business has to fill out and send in to the government. And they have to attach a copy of each employee's W-2 to that form so that they can verify everything. If a company has more than 250 employees, that information has to be sent in a computer file rather than just on a form. And at the end of each calendar year, the employers also report to the federal and state government a summary of all the earnings paid to employees during a 12-month period. So this is just a copy of what that W-3 form looks like. And so as you can see, there's a lot of tedious stuff that has to be done with taxes if you are a company. The good thing, as I mentioned at the beginning, the good thing is that in the real world, most of these forms are going to be programmed into whatever computer system your company is using, and they're going to spit them out for you. And you don't have to spend the time filling out the forms like we do here in this class.